is a presentation of the Hospital Satellite Network.
Following the successful use of the IBM Hospital Information System, MacNeal Hospital found itself the subject of a recent IBM ad campaign. I'm Don Craig. In today's show, we'll take a look at how MacNeal Hospital gained both from the IBM system and its advertisements. We'll also examine the impact of tax reform on tax-exempt hospitals with Larry Gerber, chairman of the Health Law Department of McDermott, Will & Emery. All that and more on this edition of Executive Options. After facing bankruptcy, MacNeal Hospital is now back in the black thanks to their adoption of the IBM Hospital Information System. But the story didn't end there. Noting MacNeal's success, IBM decided to feature the hospital in a series of ads for television and the print media. And as Victoria Zielinski reports, the campaign proved advantageous for MacNeal Hospital as well as IBM.
Tickets for one. The emergency room at MacNeal Hospital, Berwyn, Illinois. The doctors and nurses here are working with the latest technology, but it wasn't always this way at MacNeal.
7 years ago, we had a very sick institution.
People perceived this hospital as a nice place to visit, but you wouldn't want to be sick here.
What MacNeal needed was a fresh start, including an information system.
We chose IBM. We depend on their equipment and their software 24 hours a day, 7 days a week.
Check first. We've only got a few moments when we're dealing with a life and death situation. It's very nice to be able to go over to the computer and pull up any result that I need in a matter of a few seconds.
Our relationship with IBM has been very much a partnership. We look at them as a part of the family.
Our energies are devoted to the patient. Can you hold my hand? The computer has freed the nurse from doing paperwork to doing what they really need to do, and that's patient work.
Oh, I like that smile. Isn't that a nice smile? You're in good shape, kid.
The commercial you've just seen is the result of a relationship that began over 7 years ago when MacNeal Hospital, a major metropolitan healthcare facility in Berwyn, Illinois, was on the verge of bankruptcy. In 1980, as part of a campaign to make the hospital more efficient and profitable, MacNeal decided to install an IBM information system known as Patient Care. This was the beginning of a successful liaison between two corporations, IBM, the supplier of the system, and MacNeal, the user of the system. David Prince, Director of Information Services, describes what is necessary for this kind of productive relationship.
I think a relationship between a user and a supplier of services or product, a vendor to an organization, will be a good one when the product that's being delivered by the vendor is superb and the user of the product is using it effectively. I think certainly personalities come to play in a relationship between the corporations, but in the final analysis, there has to be a good product and it has to be very well used in order for this type of relationship to develop.
MacNeal did use the patient care system effectively. The new computer system was part of a hospital-wide rejuvenation that had the hospital running in the black by the beginning of 1987. When IBM decided to feature a healthcare facility in its commercial about its information systems, MacNeal was selected.
The commercial was, in fact, was done in documentary style, and there was no script. Coming into the commercial, there had been a storyboard created, so they had an idea of what they wanted to do. But one of the most fascinating things, again, from my opinion, is that every scene in that commercial and every voice that you hear in the commercial was the result of spontaneous action and impromptu response. There really was no script involved at all. But again, we were very pleased with the story that came out.
MacNeal has used IBM's advertising campaign in its own marketing efforts. John Doyle is Vice President of Marketing.
We think that with the IBM campaign, while it's mostly institutional and makes an overview statement about MacNeal and how it's developed over the last few years, That's helpful to us, but more specifically, we're in the business of selling emergency services, chemical dependency services, and others, and they're directed toward specific audiences. So we've made that judgment, we do that, and even with the IBM response that we created, we focused on the emergency department because that's a service that people can buy. It's hard for people to buy a whole hospital at one time.
It is too early to tell what profits will result from the additional exposure brought on by the commercial and the print ads. However, the hospital has already reaped benefits other than the fiscal ones.
As far as the community is concerned, MacNeal is a central community resource, and so the idea that this community's hospital in a small western suburb of Chicago was chosen for this kind of recognition, if you will, it makes people proud. Not only the community, but our employees as well, and that's very important because they deliver the care.
According to Prince, the 7-year relationship between MacNeal and IBM has already taught the hospital a valuable lesson about the importance of maintaining solvency in today's competitive healthcare environment.
You've got to have an effective and reliable vendor to support you with regard to equipment and software. Secondly, you've got to have commitment of the top management team in order to achieve the objective of having a working system in place. But more significantly, as a 427-bed acute care teaching hospital in a major urban area, survival into the 1990s is going to depend very heavily on having such a system in place. Now, the fact that MacNeal's been able to do it, coming out of bankruptcy effectively 8 years ago, means that it can be done everywhere and anywhere. The technology's here. All that's needed is a plan, strategy, commitment, and results. And it's a very doable thing.